enter into Andor episode 2. Episode 1 breakdown is already out, and I'm really liking this. I'm telling myself something very different. I like the dark side underbelly of Star Wars of the Galaxy, and we're in different planets doing different things, and I just love how it's really about to be broken down for how this person is really responsible for starting the rebellion and pushing it and seeing it all the way through. This is good. This is good. Diego Luna's performance, yeah, he is Cassian. Let's check this out from the New Rockstars.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Andor, Episode 1. I am loving this Rogue One prequel series for its grounded depiction of the Star Wars universe, like being unafraid to open in a brothel. No Grogu's allowed in here. Though considering the younglings who kicked off the last Star Wars show, kids might be safer in this one. I am going to break down all of the Star Wars Easter eggs and the subtle details that make this show so great. And thanks to Boxu for sponsoring this video. More on their tasty offerings later. So every Star Wars Disney Plus title opens with a red and blue lit series of familiar droid faces and metallic helmets. This one is updated to include B2 EMO, or B2, the ground mech salvage assist unit new to this series. The Andor title card shows an eclipse in space, the crescent of that planet becoming a rudimentary version of the Rebel Alliance symbol, representing Cassian Andor's evolution from an undefined planet hopper to a fully fledged rebel soldier. We open on the rainy planet of Morlana 1, where the title lists the year as 5 BBY. Now, if you've been following Star Wars, you know that BBY and ABY stand for before the Battle of Yavin and after the Battle of Yavin. In this case, 5 years before the events of A New Hope and Rogue One. What's interesting here is that this is the first time where BBY has actually been used on screen in a Star Wars show or movie. BBY and ABY have certainly been used among fans, and the new Essential Chronology reference book from 2005 suggested some in-universe characters use the Battle of Yavin as a kind of calendar year 0, but Star Wars has never until now actually shown the letters BBY on screen. But this series is clearly trying to match Rogue One, which did use on-screen titles for locations, and this Rogue One prequel series is essentially a ticking clock toward that battle. Preox Morlana is the name of a private corporation contracted by the Empire to oversee this system and run their security internally, kind of like the Wayland Yutani Corporation from the Alien franchise. Grand Moff Tarkin had kind of a smug outlook that was all about delegation, how just the fear of the Death Star and the regional governors would keep everyone in line. This is an extension of that. They're literally contracting their security out to a private company. Now, all this rain over the walkway lamps, the amazing synthy score from composer Nicholas Britell, the security hovercraft in the background with their searchlights, all of this gives off a noirish cyberpunk feel, akin to Blade Runner, which is also the influence for the Rings of Kafrene in Cassian's intro scene in Rogue One. Cassian passes these display bubbles with some folks to have some fun with, folks to maybe fight or to bet on, and in the background you can hear a female worker saying,
"No credit, no nonsense."
Yeah, that sounds a lot like the voice of the freaking midwife droid on Polis Massa in Revenge of the Sith. According to StarWars.com, Ooba is kind of a comforting cooing sound. So one of these Morlana workers is pitching themselves with the warm bedside manner of an OBGYN. That big mean empire's so hard on you, baby. Let's relax and Ooba. Inside, some holoprojectors beam a dancer, reminding us of the holoprojected Twi'lek dancer watched by the Partisans on Jedha in Rogue One. So Cassian is looking for a girl from Kenari, but the hostess says that they have a girl from Tahina, who she says has those big dark eyes that you're looking for. Both planets are new to Star Wars, and the suggestion really is that people from Kenari and Tahina have dark features. Cassian asks for the name of the Kenari girl that the hostess had seen, and the hostess says,
"Nobody here gives their real name."
An interesting stated theme for this series. This will be a show about deceit. People's declared identities are rarely who they really are. The two cops, Kravas and Verlo, chase down Cassian because this is an employee-only area off limits to people not on the corporate payroll. This whole idea of company towns is also explored in Loki with the Roxxon-owned Haven Hills, Alabama. A bit of biting the hand by directors on this platform that's owned by a studio that essentially runs company towns with their own legal jurisdictions. They ask,
"What have you swum over? You swim over. What's going on?"
Yeah, surrounded by water and literal bubbles in this opening sequence frames Cassian as a metaphorical, at least, evolutionary amphibian, transitioning from sea to land. The guy really has been adrift in an ocean, and he's now on a hero's journey to walk a path. After wrestling a blaster from their hands, Cassian says,
"Tell me what to do! Let's hear it, boss!"
Another motif throughout this episode, pretty much every scene ends with the character telling Cassian exactly what to do.
Make yourself useful.
Now go fix your face. Finish up. Get out. Don't come back.
He's still a wanderer who needs this direction. Now Verlo doesn't get up, and Kravis says,
You didn't mean it.
that thunderclap was kind of a thud of realization for Kravis. Don't make a guy feel like he has no other way out when he is still holding the gun on you. But Kravis still tries.
We played too hard with him and you didn't understand, and he tried to grab you and he fell and he hit his head. We're going together. I'll tell him what happened.
Yeah, coming up with this whole false story of what really happened. This tactic comes up throughout the episode from many characters. Specifically, Cassian later uses this with Brasso. There are two guys conspiring on an alternate version of the night before's events. It's almost like Cassian gets this from the Sentry. And on to the planet Farex. This is actually part of the same system as Morlana 1. Its name is likely based on the term ferrum, the Latin word for iron, which is why its chemical symbol is Fe, kids. Which reflects the rusty color of this planet, the way the ground is just rusty red, and all the scrap metal of these Clone Wars era ships being broken apart to build a new fleet for the Empire. The town of Farex is actually a practical set, constructed in a former quarry in the UK town of Little Marlow in Buckinghamshire, giving these actors a full town to walk around in, as opposed to the LED screens of the volume that's been used in other Star Wars live action productions. Our new favorite droid of B2 EMO rolls past a building with Orbesh, translating to Farex D something, and then beneath, speeders available. In episode 3, this will be the building where they hijack those speeders to get away. B2 stops. These boars look like the Bladeback boar. This is from the Star Wars Galaxies game. B2 rolls up to sleeping Cassian on the ship that he took to Morlana 1, now parked in the shipyard.
Cassian, I brought what you told me. Cassian. Casa.
So B2 is voiced with an adorable stutter by Dave Chapman, a longtime voice actor who actually puppeteered BB-8. But in this show, they usually let the people who puppeteer the character also voice the character. Now, we don't know if in this scene B2 actually calls Cassian Casa, or if Cassian hears the voice of the droid in his dream calling him what his sister Carrie called him. This flashback shows the planet of Canary, where a riverside tribe of youths react to a Republic-era vessel crashing overhead. And I say Republic because if Andor is set in 5 BBY, anything before 14 years prior to that would be Clone Wars era or earlier. That was before the Republic gave way to the Empire. Notice as that ship crashes, a secondary explosion releases a trail of yellow smoke, clue that it was a kind of chemical bomb that caused this crash. Now, I have heard from a bunch of new Rockstars viewers that have already signed up for Boxu, but for the uninitiated, Boxu is a monthly subscription service that delivers premium Japanese snacks and tea pairings straight from Japan to your door. They source rare snacks from all over the country and partner with family businesses to make their own signature treats. All of these are curated and delivered under a new theme every month, and this month's theme is Matsuri Nights. So the Matsuri Nights box is custom built to take the magical feeling of wandering through a Japanese festival at nighttime and pack it into a box. And here's the thing, they nailed it. I'm gonna try the Ito Matsuri Ningyo-yaki cake. It's a doll-shaped cake baked in a small iron mold and filled with custard. Mine is in the shape of a taiko drum. Oh my god, this is good. Can I get a whole box of just these? It's so sweet, but not like overly sweet. It's just kind of satisfying. I could eat 1,000 of these, easy. And the nice thing about Boxu is that when you really fall in love with the Boxu snack, you can order some direct from their site at a discount. Both I and the new Rockstars office have been receiving these boxes for ages and we love them. I've seen some pics from around the office during unboxing and it's wild how excited everyone gets. Plus, every time you get your Boxu in the mail, you can feel good knowing that you are supporting family businesses all the way in Japan. So if you want to try some rare Japanese snacks with us and support the channel, click the link in the description and use the code ROCKSTARS to get $15 off your order. Oh my god. One girl tries to signal it before another shuts her up. Now the leader is credited in the credits as Alpha 1, the shouting girl is Alpha 4, and we don't really have any other name for them than Alphas for now. Just an interesting choice to have these Canary kids speak to each other without subtitles. Now we obviously don't need the translation, we can figure out what they're talking about based on the context, but the rare choice in Star Wars to not translate what people are saying keeps Cassian and his past at a bit of distance for the viewer. Like the camera could be that of a documentarian embedded with these refugees just along for the ride and requiring us to just take all this in without any judgment. Cassian wakes up and asks B2 about who came asking for him while he was out.
Pausing for data lag.
Oh, this poor beat-up old-timer, and Cassian later asks him to lie.
I can lie. I have adequate power reserves.
I love it. It takes a droid extra power to lie. It's just a really cool commentary on how it really takes humans more energy to lie than to just be honest. As Cassian walks into town, the camera lingers on the town's bell tower, which we will see in future episodes. Striking metal is a key way that these workers tell time and communicate in other ways. Beneath the bell tower, we can see a bulky alien walking with industrial yellow plating on its head and back, maybe an exoskeleton to lift scrap metal. We see dozens of pairs of worker gloves hanging from a wall, kind of like punch cards for these workers to check in, but there's a few empty slots. Maybe some who died recently on the job. Cassian tells Brasso to tell people that they spent the night together drinking nog. Nog and Rev Nog come up a few times in this series. Sounds like an in-universe term for homemade booze, but Brasso agrees by adding to Cassian's fake story to include a fake part explaining why Cassian would have a bruise on his cheek. Notice how pretty much everyone Cassian talks to also comments on his injury. Just a reminder that in this Empire-dominated society, any change to the routine gets noticed and must have a cover story behind it. Back in Morlana 1, Deputy Inspector Cyril Karn makes a detailed report on those murders.
Have you modified your uniform?
Perhaps slightly. Pockets piping and some light tailoring.
I love commenting on an officer's uniform in Star Wars because yeah, that suit fits tight around his core and waist. On Chief Hines' screen, the Orabesh on the second line translates to Farex. So the answer to Karn's inquiry was actually right there on that screen, but Hine tells Karn not to pursue it.
Two dedicated Primor employees caught in the sad orbit of heroic calamity.
But they were murdered.
No, they were killed in a fight.
Yes, a third time characters try to concoct a false narrative out of convenience. Hine is on his way to Imperial inspection and doesn't want to have to report a recent crime. We see how this era is giving all of the people a strained relationship with the truth. Back on Barracks, Cassian approaches a shop with Orabesh on the front, including the words conversion codes. Biggs detaches some parts. This looks like a pod racer engine. Her welding mask looks like the piece of a droid head. Cassian tells Biggs that he wants to sell her high-profile contact a valuable part.
I got an untraceable NS9 Starpath unit. Vector crystals and Imperial seal still intact.
This is an Imperial navigator that shows locations and the channels that the Imps use to get from place to place. Vix's partner says,
We betting on the Wobani run tomorrow?
Wobani is a location of the Imperial prison where Jyn Erso is detained in Rogue One. Wobani is actually an anagram for Obi-Wan. Sounds like these salesmen bid on scrapper runs to other planets, getting in on whatever gets found. Kind of like Storage Wars. I love how much we're learning about the low-level economy of this society right now. Back on Kenari, the Alphas see more yellow smoke rising from that crash site. They stir darts and poison, prepping some blow dart guns. And these Lord of the Flies kids streak their arms and faces in ash as a kind of war paint. Back at the present, Karn makes an astro traffic control officer, kind of like an air traffic control operator, check the charts from the night before. The junior officer speculates that the unknown cruiser could be an Orlean Starcab or a Daven. Orlean Starcabs are old scout vessels that are mentioned in the guidebook in the 90s role-playing game. Cassian gets stopped by Nurchi, who uses Vetch to try to intimidate Cassian.
He said all I needed to do was stand here.
Yeah, the actor who plays Vetch is Ian White, the actor who plays the giant 1-1 in Game of Thrones. The guy is 7'1", and again, I love that they let White physically play the part and voice the character. Meanwhile, the Orabesh on the shop behind them reads screens. As Tim tries to follow Bix, he loses her near a sign in Orabesh that reads droid parts, and above that from the opposite angle, you can see it reads service as Bix passes a gonk droid, and on that droid shop wall hang a few legs of protocol droids. Also, as Tim looks around, there's another parts shop sign in a different language. This looks like at least now Huttese, maybe something else. I just like that not all the signs are in Orabesh to show the diversity of races that live here. Bix walks into a repair shop, repair in the Orabesh there, but also out front hangs a bell or a wind chime, something later that the proprietor Solomon Pak will use to clang to signal other townspeople to act. Bix asks for a Bending Mesh Tech filter, Bending being a StarCraft company in universe that made the XR-12, but really this is a kind of code between Bix and Solomon for a communicator hidden in the cylinder column, and she communicates by flipping a series of switches to release a rhythmic beeping, kind of like an in-universe Morse code. An intel officer on Morlana 1 eats a mouthful of blue ramen, the Star Wars tradition of randomly blue food. They reference an Imperial census that was done 6 years prior, so if this is 5 BBY, that census would have been an 11 BBY or 8 years after the Imperial takeover. And another officer warns about cracking down too hard on Farex.
They have their own way of doing things.
I love all these little examples we're getting in this era of Star Wars about how hard it is to have any authority over all of these diverse planets and societies. In the shipyard, Cassian gets chewed out by the guard, Pegla, played by Kieran O'Brien, aka James Tart in Ted Lasso, Jamie Tart's a-hole dad. His boss, Zorby, barks over the PA.
What in the name of Chop is going on out there?
Chob. So Chob's knob is an expletive used by Biff in the Heir to the Jedi novel, and we learn that Pegla knows Cassian is switching out chip logs, and he knows that Cassian used this for something shady. We end the episode back in that Canary flashback where Cassian leaves his sister behind. Yeah, that clacking percussion intensifies as we cut to black, as if to say Cassian's final glance at his sister is what hits him the hardest. Since they released the first 3 episodes all at once, my breakdowns of episode 2 and episode 3 are gonna be up on the channel very soon. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.
I really, really love how grounded this is and just the tone. Like, it's very dark, but it has its moments, and you just see the diversity that's at the heart of all of it. When you see different species, like, it feels a lot more real. You know, like, you get a lot more adult themed type of Star Wars for adults. So I'm here for it. I'm still in the middle of 2, about to go to 3, and I must say, first episode, yeah, Star Wars is not playing with their content. Marvel can do all this stuff, but I feel like Star Wars is making sure they pay attention to detail. George Lucas, sir, get Lucasfilm straight, and we're off to the races. So, you guys enjoyed my reaction to Andor Season 1, Episode 1 breakdown, Easter eggs, and everything that we missed from the New Rockstars. Subscribe to the New Rockstars. They always stay on it, as they just posted their breakdown for Episode 2, which I will have up very soon. So, you guys enjoyed my reaction. Subscribe to my channel. Post comment down below and like the video. It's your boy, D. Dyson. Peace.